Still Weird. Book 2, Chapter 1. Still weird. Still weird. After all these years, I'm still weird. After all these years, I'm still here and still weird. After all these years. Yes, I am still weird after all these years. And you know what? I'm happy about it. Because being weird isn't bad or anything like that. It's just life. So, before we get into the next book chapter 1, moving from the Philadelphia area to Southern California, I want to reflect on some of the weirdness that happened in the first 28 years of my life that was in book 1 and how it's affecting me now. And I'm sure you can relate to this because a lot of times, whether you're in therapy or talking to people, you look back on your childhood. There was this really great Far Site that my wife showed me. It's a psychiatrist's office, and there's a psychiatrist, and on the couch is laying down a clown. And I'm just picturing it because it's funny. You can look it up. And that was one of my wife's favorite all-time comics or cartoons, whatever you want to call a comic strip, Far Side. The psychiatrist says to the clown laying down on the couch, let's start with your mother. So let's start with my mother and how it affected me growing up and still affects me now, even though she passed away suddenly. She died suddenly during the COVID pandemic, June 14th, 2020. Okay, things I remember about Mom, sometimes I say Mommy Dearest, she would laugh about that, is she actually used her bra. I know this is going to sound weird. She used her bra as like a pocket or something to store things. For example, she'd have tissues in between her breasts, and she was well endowed, so she had large breasts. And I know that sounds weird that I know that, but she would stuff things in between her breasts into her bra and then pull them out when she needed it. For example, Mom, I got some sniffles. Here, son, here's a tissue. Oh, Mom, I can't find my car keys. Oh, here are your keys right here. Hey, Mom, do you have an extra dollar? Here's some money. So she would pull these out and like, hey, Mom, I'm kind of hungry. Here's a snack. Hey, Mom, I'm kind of thirsty. Well, I'm not going to go there. That's totally weird. But just, okay, I was extreme a bit there, and I was kind of totally making some stuff up, but not all of it. So you can guess what's real and what's not. But anyway, so my mother's influence on my life through my childhood, my teens, and my 20s has a profound effect on me even now to this day. And you might be wondering, hey, Glenn, what about your father? Well, he was there and he wasn't there. He was kind of in his own little world. He didn't really want to do much with us. Later in life, I would drive him around to his stamp shows, and he would spend, days and hours and time in his little study just playing with the stamps. And he had a book collection. A lot of it had to do with World War II and Hitler, and I'm not quite sure I knew much about him. He was there sometimes, but most of the time not, and that's where my mother came in. My mother was the one who did everything basically and gave me this and gave me that and guided me here, guided me there. And she just only knew how to parent based on the way her parents were, because basically she was raised by a single mother. I remember she telling me she graduated from high school at 16. It was like a business thing. She went to work for AT&T as an operator. And she would see her father. It was kind of a strange thing. She was born and raised in Philly, South Philly, kind of a neighborhood outside of Philadelphia. And she was street smart, and she learned a lot. But she would only get to see her father once in a while. He would drop by or come by and see him on the corner. I didn't have the quite whole story, but there was something to the effect that they didn't get married because the mother wasn't good enough for the father on the father's family. And I remember my mother saying that he had this gorgeous red hair. And I mean, you never really know what stories are true or not. And he was kind of a good guy, and they would see each other. But she didn't really go into much detail, so I don't know much about my grandfather on my mother's side because he wasn't around. Neither was my father's father. He was a fireman in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and he died sometime. But the thing about parents is sometimes you really never get the full story, what's true, what's not. But it made me kind of feel for my mother because she was raised by a single mother. And this is, look, she was born in 1934. So that's like right around, after the Depression and the World War II coming about. So she kind of had a rough time back then. Like I said, she went to work right out of high school as an AT&T operator. You can look at those old-time videos or pictures of people just like being AT&T operators. And she really didn't have a much father figure in her life. And I think what she wanted to do is give me more than she had. And I think that's usually the goal as parents. But sometimes it was too much. Sometimes it wasn't enough. And it kind of affected me in many, many ways, as I'm sure parents affect you in a way that there's the saying, like, you got to cut the umbilical cord. But for some reason, my mother held on, even to right before she passed. I remember talking and saying, remember, pay your taxes. Did you pay your taxes? I can sing a little something to pay your taxes. That one thing she was really great about. She always worked. She was a nurse for 40 years, and she did so many things. And she said, I can help. I said, Mom, I'm okay. But when I was down and out, she was there to help me. And I've tried to do that for my family, and I wasn't always successful. But so let me just tell you that parents and how they influence and affect your life still stays with you even when they're gone. And we try to break away and we try to get out on our own, but it's just kind of weird because I still have those feelings about her and what she told me. It's like, do this, don't do that, and so domineering sometimes. It makes me hard. It makes me want to cry. So maybe I didn't have your normal childhood or being raised by normal parents, but you know what? I don't think any of us have normal parents or normal childhood. I think we're all just weird, and we're trying to figure out what our life is and how weird it is or not weird it is. And I think we just kind of try to put on a social face about how great life is or how we're doing okay. But honestly, I'll tell you, I'm not. I'm still not doing great. If you want to know more about my loss, I have a podcast called Club Grief, and Club Grief is about the sudden loss of my wife and how it's been affecting me. But let me not jump to that. So in the next chapter, chapter 2, I'm going to talk about moving from the Philadelphia area out to Southern California at age 28, getting away from home, and how weird that got. And there's some really kind of interesting stuff you might want to stick around for. And it has to do with big kind of musical superstars. And we won't go too far. So here we are. Growing Up White. It's weird. Book 2, Chapter 1. Still weird after all these years.